Tonight we are honored to have as our speaker, actually, one of Dr. Martin's patients. Her name is Debbie Clay, and she's going to share with us some of her reflections on her cancer journey. Debbie Clay.
How's that? Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you hear me say cancer sucks? Yeah. All right. Last summer, I walked in my first relay right here on this track. I'd been diagnosed with breast cancer just 4 months prior. I was only 2/3 of the way through 5 months of chemo. It was an emotional morning for me. I admit my heart was heavy when I put on my purple survivor shirt. I was still working really hard to accept the reality of a cancer diagnosis. They were tying balloons on the wrists of survivors that morning, and when it was my turn, I was asked, "How many years of survivorship do you have?" I said quietly, "Well, I'm not really a survivor yet. I'm still in treatment." As the volunteer wrote the number 1 on my balloon and tied it to my wrist, she smiled and said to me, "You are a survivor, honey. You're a survivor as soon as you hear the words, 'You have cancer.'" So here on this track as a newbie, I took my place, one purple shirt among many, and it gave my hopefulness a huge booster shot with every step I took around this very track, that maybe someday I could relay years and years into survivorship with a really big number on my balloon. Like my friend Cindy Cooper, who I walked with this morning, and I had a 1 and she had an 18, and I had balloon envy. So there's a Native American saying that says, "Sorrow that is shared is halved, but joy that is shared is doubled." And that's how I felt walking my first survivor's lap. I felt empowered, embraced, and comforted to know I was not alone in this, and that people can and do recover and resume their lives after a cancer diagnosis. That same night was my first Luminaria ceremony. It had been a rough week in chemo for me. My port was having big problems, and just the day before, at my Friday infusion, my fabulous oncologist, Dr. Leslie Martin, decided my port needed to come out. We called my surgeon's office, made an appointment the next week to have him take a look. Well, that night at the Luminaria ceremony, imagine my surprise when the guest speaker was announced was my surgeon, Dr. Len Fleasy. My husband insisted we should talk to him about my port. I was nervous and didn't want to bother him, but even I couldn't ignore that the very man I needed to talk to was here on this stage that night. He gave a thoughtful speech about progress in cancer treatment and his own experiences taking care of cancer patients and how it had made him a better doctor. We did speak to him, and by the light of my husband's iPhone, right over there on this field, he looked at my port, gave me a hug, and told me to come to his office first thing Monday morning. I felt as if the stars lined up for me that night, and that was my first relay. Tonight, it's a year later, and I'm here before you with all the stars lining up again. 1 year of cancer treatment completed, and recently named a Hero of Hope for next year's relay season. Thank you. Very excited about that. Well, imagine my surprise and joy when I found out tonight's doctor speaker was my oncologist, Dr. Leslie Martin. She is the quarterback of my cancer team, and I affectionately named her the Good Witch in my blog called The Sacred Ordinary. And that she is. I'll tell you, if you're going to get breast cancer, you're going to need a good witch, and hopefully one from Ohio. In my blog, which I decided to write, basically chronicling a year in the life of a breast cancer patient, I posted every day from Mother's Day to Mother's Day. And it became such a huge force for good and connection in my life. I received over 11,000 visits to the blog, over 1,000 comments, and although I was a sisterless sister, I have sisters all over the world now. Last year, I walked this track still in the battle, like some of you here tonight, fighting really hard, like my friend Marcia. I wore a purple scarf on my bald head. This year, I'm walking as a survivor with lots of hair and fake boobs, with reconstruction planned later this year. I named my boobs Flopsy and Mopsy, and I look forward to Flopsy and Mopsy, the sequel, when I will have the boobs of a 20-year-old on the body of a 52-year-old. I'll show anybody who wants to see it next year's relay. And I'm proudly going to wear a t-shirt without a bra, which I had never been able to do my whole life. A t-shirt that says, yes, these perky boobs are fake because my real ones tried to kill me. Right? I'm very grateful to my friend Kim Cooper, chairperson of this year's relay, and her team, Glenda Pedersen and Polly McCall, who asked me to speak to you tonight. This ceremony, both as a cancer survivor and having lost my mom to cancer, is so meaningful to me. I got the tissue in my pocket, ready to go. In just a bit, when we light these candles, an ordinary high school track will become a holy place for many of us. There is a quote by the American writer Washington Irving, and it sums up how I feel about the luminary ceremony. It says that there is a sacredness in tears. They are not the mark of weakness, but of power. They speak more eloquently than 10,000 tongues, and they are messengers of overwhelming grief and unspeakable love. Overwhelming grief. For those that are missing among us tonight, for those that are still fighting hard for their lives, cancer hurts and devastates, and when cancer happens, it happens to the whole family, and it is ruthless in its disregard. It doesn't care how old you are, and it doesn't care how much you're loved or how much you're needed. I love the relay slogan that says, every candle has a name. And many of the candles we will light tonight are in memory of names that meant so much to us. Mother, father, sister, brother, husband, wife, daughter, son, co-worker, friend. As I walked the track last year, there was one little luminary I could not forget. On it was the face of a precious little boy. He lived from 2002 to 2005, only 3 years old, when cancer took him from his family. I wish I'd written his name down because I was suffering from chemo brain at the time, and later I couldn't remember it, but I'll never forget his face. He became an angel on my path, and many sleepless nights I had during treatment, I thought of him, the littlest angel found on a high school track. So let the flicker of the candles we light tonight in memory of those we loved and lost rise up to heaven like valentines and bouquets of forget-me-nots, symbols of our overwhelming grief and unspeakable love. Please join me now as every candle has a name, and say out loud the name of someone you loved and lost to cancer.
Nancy Diane.
Unspeakable love. That's why we're here tonight, to celebrate this sacred life, survivorship, all of the angels who stood by us, loved us, and supported us during diagnosis and treatment and beyond. On behalf of all the survivors here tonight, let me give a heartfelt thanks to all the caregivers, family and friends, our doctors and nurses. We can never repay or thank you enough for all the ways you loved us more than what cancer could ever take from us. I'd like to personally thank the staff at Sutter Cancer Center and Hospital in Vallejo and Mount Diablo Solano Oncology Group, and of course, my good witch, my favorite oncology nurse, Rhonda. So, let's light up this night. Let's set this track on fire, striking back against cancer's losses and darkness. Cancer does not sleep, and neither will we tonight. As these luminarias flicker and these sacred tears speak for us, let them be a symbol that our hope is unstoppable, our faith is unshakable, our resolve to fight back unbreakable. And do not grieve as the candles dim through the night and the sun comes up on a new day. Be at peace knowing that right here in Vallejo, tomorrow morning, all of our efforts have brought us one day closer. In relays all over our great country, vows were made, donations, dollars donated, tracks were walked, and luminarias lit, all to show that for every family that cancer hurts, thousands of us will show up every year to celebrate, to remember, to fight back until there's a cure. Until there's a cure. Amen.